Welcome to Salon Talks. I'm Mary Elizabeth Williams. I'm so excited today because we've got with us Maya Erskine and Anna Konkle. They are the co-stars, the co-creators, the co-executive producers of your new favorite show, Hulu's PEN15. The series follows the 7th grade adventures of two best friends played by our 30-something stars in the year 2000, which was almost 20 years ago. I have a hard time believing that. It was the era of gel pens, Casey and JoJo, and of course AOL Messenger. Salon's Erskine recently called the show hilarious and heartfelt, and Cosmopolitan says that it is so relatable it feels like a personal attack. Is that like the best review you ever? Is it?
That's amazing. That's really incredible.
I have like that would be like the epitome. Like that, or you make me cry. I always
like, did you read my diary? Was something that a lot
I bet you're getting a lot of
we
that.
are, yeah.
Right?
It's really unexpected and cool that so many things of like, actually every trauma that Anna and Maya go through separately in the show, being like that happened, and that happened from the same person.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
And you grew up, you did not go to, like, even though you play friends who are in the same middle school together, you grew up on opposite coasts. You grew up in Massachusetts, you grew up in LA, but at the same time you met in college.
Yeah.
In Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I know about it.
You know so much.
You bonded over Bertolt Brecht.
Wow, look at that pronunciation.
Thank
you. I don't know how to say it.
I like to
We never did it.
We bonded over the anxiety of performing in that way.
And like puking over Brecht.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then the idea for this show, though, sprang up a couple of years later when you were going to a party in your 20s.
Yes.
Can you talk a little about how that inspired the pearl, the grain that became the pearl that is this show?
Yeah. I mean, we just, Anna had just moved to LA, and I was there, for a couple years, and we went to a party where there were a lot of kids from my actual middle school there, and they still all hang out and have the same dynamic that they had in middle school, and they're cool kids, and we instantly felt insecure around them and just started going in our heads like, wow, I'm not good enough, I'm not cool enough, and it was such a surprise and a revelation of, wow, we still feel like we're in 7th grade. Like, how does this not escape me? I'm in my 20s. I thought and we both, even you're not from LA, and you didn't know these kids.
And I still felt like that.
Right. So, so that just got the wheels turning about, middle school. What if you never really left it? And then I think the idea, because Anna and I really like playing different kinds of characters and especially rejects of society, so we started with a very convoluted idea of us being, we were two characters who escaped from a cult, and we tried to hide in a foster family and then go
to middle school as the foster children to like
adults.
hide from the cult, but as adults. And that didn't go anywhere.
No.
So it's a little like the movie Orphan.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, yeah.
But as a comedy.
Right. Exactly, that twist,
Or a little like 21 Jump Street.
Sure, or Never Been Kissed. I mean, we just stole from every movie. And we worked with Sam, who's one of our best friends and an amazing creator, and he and all three of us brainstormed for a couple days and just stripped away everything, and it was like, what if we're actually 13-year-olds around 13-year-old kids, and showing the reality and the R-rated nature that we hadn't seen at the time, because this was 6 years ago, and portray it in an accurate way how we experienced it.
So I want to ask you, when you went back to that party, because I'm always curious about this, I don't know if anybody I know ever says, like, yeah, I was really super cool when I was in 7th grade. Yeah, I had the world by the short ones, right? Like, everyone I know is just like, no, it was a mess. So when you go back and you see these people from your middle school, were you like, wait, actually, maybe they weren't as together as maybe they weren't as exalted as I thought of at the time? Or was it like, no, cool kids are still cool?
I mean, this is funny, but Sam, our the third grader, will always say, he was like, it was my peak in middle school. Like, I hit it big and it's gone downhill since
Which is sad and funny too, in a totally different way.
Exactly. But I've gotten some messages from the popular kids who have said, stories that had happened to them where they felt bullied or, hurt and went through all this pain that I had, zero idea of. But I'm still waiting for a couple more messages on that front.
like a few more
apologies. But the point is, I think that even the bullies are bullied themselves and the bullied bully. Like it's all about survival at that time. So I feel like there's, no one who kind of goes by unscathed.
Yeah, I mean, I have two teenagers so middle school is still a fresh trauma for us. And I look at them and I think, is there someone who's like going home and crying over my kids? Like, are they the ones who are like, just ruining somebody else's childhood? Who knows?
Yeah. I feel like it's inevitable that we all, at some point, sadly, play a part in that, because you're at a point where you're just trying to survive, and this is something that makes us laugh and cry, the idea of like, the smallest, or something that can appear to somebody else is so small, or as adults looking back is so tiny, and it can feel so massive. And I always talk about this one moment in middle school where like I went home after someone's birthday party, and I like danced with this guy for like 2 minutes, and like I danced on his feet, like stepping on his feet. And that was like the first time I felt like I couldn't stop talking about it. And even now as an adult, I think about it, I'm like, oh, that was the first feeling of like real potential for love feeling or something, even though it was like, that was the only instance. That was that little moment. And like, so I think that goes both ways with the positive and the negative, is you could do something really small to you and it could like really affect somebody else. But that's being a human.
Yeah, and your characters do that in the show. They kind of spin around, not necessarily aware even of what they're doing to each other.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something like Maya and I, as adults, as best friends, as business partners, you have to navigate, and it's almost reassuring to look back at that time and see that we were even dealing with that then. You know what I mean? And it doesn't go away, really.
Right.
But you just kind of figure out how to deal with it, maybe.
Because I feel like that's the first time you're dealing with a complex relationship with female. I don't know. It's you're navigating more emotions than when you were a kid. It's pretty.
Right, your brain is actually like quite different, obviously.
Yeah, it's changing so dramatically at that moment. So a lot of those kinds of relationships or dynamics are still the same as you grow. I mean, you try to evolve them.
Your relationships are getting more sophisticated. Your brain is changing. Your hormones are just going off. You've got hairs popping up suddenly on
everywhere,
your chins,
just like
on your nipples.
Let's go there. It's on your nipples.
About...
If you say you don't have that, I don't believe you.
If you learn nothing else today, just we want nipple hair awareness.
Yeah.
March is Nipple Hair Awareness Month.
I love that.
So I'm really glad that we could.
You can vote for your favorite nipple hair.
So, up to that point,
this has been like
no. This has been like 6 years in the making.
Yeah.
And I heard an interview with you where you said like you had the idea for it, and then you're like, I better clear my schedule.
Yeah.
Which is delightfully
naive,
optimistic,
right?
Hopeful.
Sure, optimistic.
Really, just blue skying it.
Well,
and you said that at the time you weren't seeing as much of the conversation out there, or as much of this dramatized or depicted in popular culture. So what did you draw on? What did influence you at the time when you were looking to inspiration?
Welcome to the Dollhouse is a big one that we always reference. Todd Salon's Palindromes, his movie. Freaks and Geeks. Squid and the Whale.
Oh, yeah.
Storylines that felt adult, where you were acknowledging the kid having some adult knowledge or coping with things that we associate as adults, which, we all know isn't true, but really hard to depict. I mean, now it's happening a lot, like you said, but at the time going like, how do we tell these adult stories or things that as adults we can talk about, I guess, but that really happened as a kid.
Right.
Yeah. And at the time it was like, okay, well, we won't have kids do it. We'll do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And get real with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just a brilliant way of doing it, because like I was saying to you earlier, it just then makes the comedy safe. Right,
yeah.
you can be really absurd, and when you see a movie like Welcome to the Dollhouse, which is beautiful and brilliant, but it just is so painful. You just feel Dawn's pain so deeply, her humiliation, because you also are thinking about the actress.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's darker, and it's and with adults you're able, there's the distance to make yourself feel comfortable and put yourself in those shoes. And I also think because we've had years from being in middle school, there's maybe, and I don't know, but you can see the years of depth or emotional understanding that we have as adults placed into that. So it's not just having kids go through these emotions in front of you. It's like watching an adult relive that pain is another level of
and even casting kids and kids being around us in some of the situations, even though for the most part we are more the butt of the joke often, or more the lowest on the totem pole more often than not, which made me feel more comfortable casting other kids as opposed to like putting them in that position. There was still the feeling of like, oh, they're witnessing something or experiencing it too, being actors in it, like kind of shitty. And how much should we talk about this scene with them? And what does their parent think about this? And what does the school teacher on set think about this? So occasionally we would have those like conversations, and everybody seemed to be really on board.
Yeah, I read a really great review of it that said that this is a show that is about the trauma of middle school. It's not an instrument of traumatizing kids.
Thank you. I like that.
Nice.
Right?
That's
I think
good.
it's really good. What I find even more incredible, actually, is that you're doing these scenes with your mom. That you are humping pillows in front of your actual real mother. Maya. What's that like?
Strangely, it was fine. I didn't feel embarrassed in front of my mom. It was more knowing that my dad was gonna watch this show and realize,
because you and your mom are very like open.
We're very open. We're very close with each other, and I still didn't talk about masturbating to her. So it was, I kept saying to her on set, like, this is a bit like dramatized for the sake of comedy,
but maybe not.
But no, I mean, I think by now they understand, and I think they actually are really happy about it. Like it was, I think
proud of you.
They're proud that I like, shared that openly.
Yeah, I'm so grateful.
But yeah, it was actually really nice and comforting to have my mom on set, and it created such. Anytime I'm around my mom, even now, I revert back to the age of 13. I don't know what that says about me emotionally, but it's so easy for me. I feel so safe around them, and I just revert back to my kid self. And so being on set with her, it just helped that much more.
It just heightens that. But I'm curious, because what is it like now for you looking back at because you're both really playing very, very much versions of your 13-year-old self. So how do you change that? Or do you get right in there and you're back in that place? Or is it like, no, I can be a little kinder to myself, or go a little easier on myself, or a little harder on myself?
You mean like when we're acting?
Yeah.
I think it changes depending on the scene. You were about to say something and I cut you off.
No, go ahead.
No, go.
No, I don't remember.
Okay, well, one of you has to talk.
Go ahead.
So we can just do like rock, paper, scissors.
I mean, there were certain scenes, obviously, that felt more at home and more reminiscent of what actually happened as a kid. That was actually quite surprising when it would happen. And that felt cathartic and traumatic in a way to relive. But I feel like Anna and I tried to approach these characters as not necessarily just Maya and Anna, because they're not exactly what our lives were growing up in. We weren't real best friends as 13-year-olds, but there was a lot to mine from our own personal experiences. And you had a best friend that was like Maya, and I had a best friend that was like Anna, but it was circumstantial. I feel like we're kind of freakier than we were in middle school in some ways.
Yeah, I relate to my character more of how I was in 4th and 5th grade. By middle school in real life, I had in certain ways, figured out how to hide, it a little bit more. I think I felt weirdly like it was more peaceful going back now. I mean, because I'm going back by choice.
Yeah.
You know, and also like being an actor and playing roles and you know, there was something to not having to feel like I'm meeting somebody else's expectation of what like the girlfriend is supposed to look like in that role, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I didn't put in hair extensions. I didn't, you know, there was not makeup. There, you know, and there was something that was like really incredibly peaceful and freeing about playing that kind of character.
Yeah.
I mean, what a rare opportunity. I can't believe that someone
I
gave
know,
us
it's
permission
so,
to do it.
We are so lucky. And it also felt like, I just remembered, it felt like I was giving a hug to my younger self. Like it was like I was in certain scenes being like, you are enough, like you are beautiful. And we don't get to say that to ourselves. I don't say that enough to myself now. So doing that, getting that opportunity to do that for our younger selves is so beautiful.
And comes out of the creative control that you have on this show.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about that because it seems to me you both were already veterans in the entertainment industry. You'd already been slugging away for a really long time before this show came along. And it feels like there are a lot of parallels between middle school and Hollywood and the entertainment industry, where it's like, they're the cool kids, they're the beautiful kids, you have to look a certain way, and if you don't fall into a certain kind of role, you can get very lost and passed over and rejected again.
Yes.
I don't need to keep going with that.
And cut down.
And then you feel like you're okay, and then you're
and then you're definitely not okay.
Flashes and someone cute comes along. Anyway, so I'm wondering, did you draw on that as well? Is there a subtext that's also a little bit about the entertainment industry?
I mean,
it's okay if the answer is just no.
No, for me, I think it was like more that, you know, I am in the entertainment industry and I am Anna at 31 years old, and going back to 13 did not feel like very different from how I feel now. So I think something we talked about a lot is like, you know, where I'm putting my arm and how I'm slouching my body, and how those are things that I pretty much want to do now. And just have learned, like, that's a giveaway that you feel that way. So don't do that, you know? So I'm like, I'm gonna sit up straighter because I feel perfect about myself. You know what I mean? Like, you learn how to cope more with those feelings, but for me, they don't go away. And that has to do with being a human and being an actress and being all these different things. So the acting in Hollywood, and, you know, definitely has to do with mining things for the character, I think.
And I think, for me, I mean, just being Asian American and trying to work in this business for so long in the beginning, it was incredibly difficult. And then I felt like it was easy in some ways because I was getting the opportunity to like fill in a token minority character in a lot of like network shows and things like that. And, I feel like that it wasn't a conscious effort, I think, on making PEN15 of drawing the parallels to Hollywood, but I think it's just there. But yeah, Hollywood does feel like my middle school, and it's starting to change, and it's great. And but yeah, I do feel like what I felt I felt like an other for so long, and I still felt that in the industry, but it's starting to change slowly for me.
And I'm seeing a lot of things online and even messages about like you starring in this show and other Asian Americans feeling seen.
Right? Like that's been what this is all about, really, is just to get messages saying like, oh, I have never seen like my story of an immigrant mother and a white American dad together. Oh, I haven't seen my parents divorce in the same way that, you know, it happened to me. I feel seen and heard, and then that thereby then makes us feel seen and heard. So it's really crazy.
And it stretches across generations.
Yeah.
It's not just, I'm sure it's not just viewers who are the same age as you.
No,
it's like everybody who's gone through that, everybody who's gone through adolescence or who's gone through having immigrant parents or a parent's divorce, it's like there is something, that touchstone of what it feels like to be 13 and having stuff going on around you in the world and that you're participating in, that you're not a passive observer is really, really cool. So I want to ask you, because you work with these amazing young actors, but it's a period piece.
Yeah.
What is it like for them confronting the year 2000? Like, you're gonna do a scene where you're gonna be on AOL. What's AOL? Like, what is, like, are they just completely baffled by what's a landline? What's Lisa Frank?
I would start going into it for fun, and I'd be like, because when we dialed the internet, I'd go dee 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 dee, and you'd sit there for minutes, and they're like, okay,
they don't.
They don't. It's like your parents being like, I walked to school,
exactly.
miles in the snow, and
or
you're
they'd
like,
be like, yeah, I heard of it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you guys used to have AOL, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
You're too
you're
absorbed, really.
You're just ready to get your next text.
Yeah.
There's no. Or they were texting and talking shit about us, probably.
That's our fear.
I would ask you. Like, do you then look at them and think, oh my God, these 13-year-olds are so
well, they were
cool.
so nice that definitely so cool. But like, I did just start thinking about that of like, oh right, they could have been texting group chats of talking shit about us.
I expect it.
Yeah, like, just making fun, because that's what kids do. I mean,
and you're playing freaky characters. Like, how could they not be like, what did she just say?
Right.
To me, like in that scene.
And like, did you see her mustache? Like, it's so nasty. Yeah.
Yeah, because 13-year-olds, it's so traumatic, and yet they are so mean.
They are really mean.
Yeah. To our faces, they were super nice.
Yeah,
and I got the vibe that truly from just about all of them, they were like pretty special kids.
They were.
It was a pretty special group.
Yeah, you can tell that in the performances.
Right?
Yeah,
They're really great.
So I have one favor I want to ask you before we have to let you go. So watching the show, of course, I have to admit, I really would love to be a member of the club. And I wanted to ask you.
Oh my God!
If you would initiate me into the club.
Yes.
Can I be a PEN15?
If you want.
Can I be a member of the
If you'll
PEN15?
join our club, then
Are you sure you
if
want
you'll
it?
have us.
Do you want it on your hand or you want it on your forehead?
Just kidding. It would be really cool to have it in permanent ink on my forehead, but I'm going to settle for my hand.
Great.
Okay, and you got a Sharpie.
You got a Sharpie.
I want to be in the club.
Oh my God, you're in the club.
prepare.
Have you been in the club before?
Should I do it this way?
I've
This is
never
your
been in the
first
club
time?
before, so yes, I've waited my whole life.
And
I
so
wanna,
just
I want to be an inspiring message to other adult women that
Yes.
you are never, ever too old to be in PEN15.
Amazing. Thank you.
Maya.
Okay.
And just remember, you're thinking of it like you're going to be in our cool club, and then you see what the club is really.
I feel as cool as any human possibly could. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maya, Anna. Thank you so much. This show is on Hulu. It is PEN15. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.